Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. All right. Hello, readers. Thanks for tuning in to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, where today I have a very special guest whose new romance book always makes my summer reading list. And here to talk about this summer's hit, It's a Love Story, which releases May 27th, is the one and only Annabel Monaghan. So welcome, Annabel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. I'm so happy to be here.
I am too. I cannot wait to chat about this book. It is already on my list of best romance books of 2025. I loved it so much. But first, I feel like I need to thank you again for joining us for the She Reads Romance Books book club last summer. We still talk about summer romance in Allie and Ethan in club. They just come up every now and then because we love them so much.
That makes me so happy. I'm so glad.
It was one of our very special author Q&As, so thank you again for joining. And I know when you did come and talk to us about that book, you gave us some teasers about It's a Love Story, which was still just sort of percolating, I think, in the ethers then. But now it's going to be out this May. For people just tuning in, can you tell listeners a little bit about what this new release is all about?
Sure. I just that puts me on like a time travel to think about talking to you last summer about summer romance, and I was so stressed out about this book. And I didn't actually finish it until October. So I was a little late delivering this book, but
Okay.
hopefully it all came together. So it is the story of Jane Jackson, who is a former teen star, and she was on a sitcom where she was the punchline. Like the end of every episode, she'd sit in a plate of nachos and they'd all say, "Poor Janie." And that was the end. And she was just always sort of the background person. Now she's an adult and she's trying to make it as a producer in Hollywood. And she's about to get her first project greenlit. And it starts going south. And she tells a huge lie just to buy herself some time so that the project doesn't die. And now she needs to spend the rest of the book trying to figure out a way to make this lie true. And she needs to rely on the one guy that she absolutely cannot stand, Dan Finnegan. He's the worst. And he's also my favorite.
Yeah.
To help make that happen. So that's the story.
So, okay, I've read this twice already. I absolutely love it. I have. It's so good. And I didn't think I could love it anymore, but I did the second time around. I mean, I read it again because I wanted to like ask all the questions for this, but I just love it so much. And Dan is the absolute best. So but I love summer romance. So after you write that amazing book and then you sit down and you're like, okay, on to the next book. Here we go. What's it going to be about? Like, how does this idea even come to you?
So the trick is, and this is, I can answer any question with this exact same answer. I need to not get overwhelmed. So that's like this trick of my whole life. So I manage my mind. Like I finish a book and then I'm like, that's over. And then I try not to think about it for a little while, because if I actually am like, I need to come up with a really good idea right now, I'll panic. So I finished writing summer romance and I was not thinking about my next book. And I picked up Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. I was at the bookshelf in Thomasville, Georgia, and I was like, oh, I'll read this book. And I read it twice in a row. Like as soon as I finished it, I started it again. I was so swept away by her writing. And like the world, like that world is so foreign to me. I grew up in Los Angeles, but like didn't know any film or entertainment people. And just like it kind of I just kept thinking about child stars. And the one thing that kept coming back to me, did you ever, I'm like of a different age, but my kids watched iCarly and they watched Victorious. Do you know these shows?
That was, I think, was past my time too. When I read this book, I kept thinking Punky Brewster.
Yeah. Okay.
And like fit her in with like the ensemble of like Saved by the Bell. That's just where my mind went.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's exactly how much younger you are than I am. So I kept thinking of Victorious, which was it was that kind of a show like in the book, like they're pop stars and it's an entertainment high school. And I kept thinking about how the background girl who was kind of a weirdo on that show, who was that was Ariana Grande. And like I don't know where the rest of those kids are now, but what do they think about the fact that Ariana Grande is a billionaire? Like, I just and that's what I kept thinking. And I'm like, I think I wanna write about this. And so I started writing about it, and it turned into a book about just, like, sort of our value and keeping up and, measuring ourselves against our peers and where we think we're supposed to be in life by a certain time. I think a lot of us fall prey to that. So that was the seed of the story.
Well, and I think that's why I love your characters so much because I feel like I can see myself in them. I mean, obviously, I was not a young Hollywood star, right? Like Jane. However, her feeling, like you just said, that she's like, well, I should be showing more for my life at this stage, right? Compared
Yeah.
to where my co stars are. And I think we all do kind of feel that way. Be like, well, I'm in my late 40s. What have I really shown for? It's right. And I really
Yeah.
identified a lot with that, as well as her like accumulating her worry as her cardio for the day. I'm like, yes, that's me too.
Yes, that's the best exercise I get. Yeah, no, I think it is relatable, and I think it's relatable in almost every decade. What am I doing? We're all we're raised on a track, and a lot of us get stuck on a track. God knows I did for a long time. And then you're measuring yourself against the people who are to the left and the right, and it's like it's such an odd place to get your value or your sense of self-worth.
Yes. I did not read the book, although it's widely popular that you just mentioned. I'm glad my mom's dead. I
It's
have not.
really hard to say. I have
Yes.
a really hard time, and I almost like my mind keeps me from remembering the title of the book because I am not glad my mom died, but the writing, it's just amazing. It's a great book.
Well, and I can imagine, again, not having read it, that a big part of that is this theme of identity, who she was beyond her character, beyond who her mother said she was, and that sort of thing, which, and I loved that theme in this book too, of like, what is your identity for Jane and Dan together? Was that sort of an important piece to the overall story
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah,
Identity?
that was super important, and, as I watch people grow up online and the way we, I have the weirdest background behi I was, like, wishing I had a better background for you today because I was gonna show you that, and that's gonna be, like, part of my identity. I think we're all thinking about stuff like that all the time, and if you think about a child star who is told what to say, where to stand, and how to dress, like, that's a weird you kinda missed all of that choice making during
Yeah.
that time because you had a costume director and a real director.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that was something I really wanted to explore, and I was interested to find that Jane was a person who probably gets 100% of her validation externally, and
Yes.
Dan is a guy, as it turns out, who gets 100% of it internally.
Mm.
He's not looking for it on the outside.
Mhm. I I loved her as a heroine just from the very get-go where I was like, "Yes, I could use a costume designer in my daily life. Just tell me what I need to wear today given what's on my to-do list," like you did. So, what do you think readers are just going to love about her in this book?
She's a nut. And it was really fun to write because I'd never written even a mildly unhinged character. I mean, they all have, like, a little bit of nuttiness, but, I mean, the stuff that she believes about dating and the rules she has for herself, she has certain outfits she wears for certain dates for very specific reasons. She's a nut. And what I found really interesting in these, for last couple of months while people have been reading this book is people find her really relatable.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that that many people felt that way and had an internal dialogue that was quite as self-sabotaging as hers is. So, I don't know, it's kind of fun to be along for the ride with somebody who's a little unhinged.
Yes. Well, and she doesn't think that anybody wants the funny run, right? But I'm like, I love the funny in people. you gave her this hilarious sense of humor in the book, and I think Dan's humor sort of is like the perfect match. So, is their banter like your sense of humor, or did you just manifest these like great lines for her because she's got some good ones?
Well, thank you. I did set out, and I was like, this is going to be really hard. She believes that men don't like funny women. So when she's dating, number one rule, don't say anything funny
Mhm,
because then you're going to be his buddy. He's not
mhm,
going to want to go out with you. So what I set out to do was have her have funny thoughts and say unfunny things. And then I was like, whenever I try to come up with something funny, all I can think of is a funeral. Like I go totally blank. So I have to actually not be trying to make a funny situation. But, and I wrote this book. I mean, this book really did take a lot of drafts to write. It was a lot of drafts in that I started to understand her and I started to understand him. And the way that they spoke to each other kind of clicked.
mhm.
That wasn't all right off the bat.
Well, because you give this like I'm not the writer, so I don't have the great words, like this perfect sort of slow burn evolution to their story. And I feel like every great author sort of has this superpower. And I realize, okay, this is Annabelle's superpower. She can just make these characters come off the page by just showing these little moments through each page as we go. Not a lot of telling. You don't need to tell like that, Dan maybe has ADD or whatever. You're just showing who these characters are moment by moment. And I just loved that about this story.
Thank you.
So, Dan, okay, I keep talking about him. Let's talk about him because I fell in love with him. So, what do you think readers are going to love about Dan?
He's a quiet man. And, full disclosure, I'm married to a quiet man. I love a quiet man.
Mhm.
I had a very hard time actually falling in love with Leo Vance from Nora Goes Off Script, who walks in as the sexiest man alive. Like, that's not my kind of guy, right? And I had to really like and I did fall in love with him. But Dan is a guy who knows who he is. And I have wanted for a really long time to write a story about a big Irish family
Mhm.
where, but not Irish, but Irish American, people here who are like a bunch of guys and they all bust on each other and what it would be like to grow up in that family because you're so used to just like people being like, you loser, but they love you.
Mhm.
And I wanted to write about a guy who grew up in that family and has that kind of sense of himself, like he knows who he is. But then he turned out to be sort of the outlier in his family and an oddball. But I thought he was a good foil for Jane because he knows who he is and she literally has no idea who she is.
Mhm. Mhm. And the forced proximity, if you have to say it, like that you gave to them for her to have that vulnerability to kind of understand who she is and be okay with who she is in the dark and, sharing things with him was just so beautiful. And I loved that because she doesn't know who she is at first or doesn't want to admit who she is. And Dan's just like, I'm here in the dark and you're just, they just share these things. And it was just, I loved it.
Yeah, you're making my day. Thank you. And I loved sending her into that family because that is like the warmth that she needed to sort of crack open. She doesn't really believe in love. And she thinks that love looks like, a grand gesture. I personally don't believe that love looks like a grand gesture. I think it's like small acts of care over a long period of time.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted to show a family where, like, Dan's parents have that kind of love. It's quiet and
I
constant.
I wanna spend a week with that family. I mean, they were fantastic, like, all the brothers, the mom and dad, and like you said, sort of the picking on them, but yet the love was just overwhelmingly underneath it all, and for that their anniversary party, which was so lovely.
Right?
It's a family yeah, I'm like, I just wanna leap in these pages and spend time with them. They were so fun.
I kind of wanted to go to that party, actually.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and I do love a family where there are no secrets.
Mm.
So because once something's kept a secret, then it becomes a thing. But if
Mhm.
everybody talks about the time, you got arrested for, whatever the thing is that happened, then it like loses its energy and it all just dissipates. It just seems like such a relaxing way to have a family.
But I also like too where he definitely was like the odd man out, and they still didn't quite know what to do with him. So it's not like they were necessarily perfect in how they related to Dan.
No.
He didn't care. Like he was just like, I know who I am, and I followed what I wanted to do, even though it was different from my plumber brother and electrician brother and all the things.
I think that happens in a family too, where you're always trying to fix the person who's different.
Mhm.
So you have an introvert in a family of extroverts, you're like, they must be depressed. Like we have to fix them. And it's like, no, I just don't want to come. Like that's not a problem.
Right, right, exactly. Well, tell me about The Notebook. So, do you love it as much as I do? Because I'm Team Dan on this one.
No, I love the Notebook. I mean,
Yeah,
like every person with a beating heart must
must.
love the Notebook. And I don't know why that ever came into the story. It's in the book. They get into a big fight that's like an ongoing fight about the quality of the Notebook. So I had to play my own devil's advocate about the movie. Well, because you have to have two sides of a fight.
Yeah,
And it turns out I can really pick that movie apart.
you
Like
could.
there's some really absurd stuff in that movie that makes absolutely no sense.
I particularly like how you picked apart the letters for a year. Like, how could she not have gotten one from the mailbox? I totally agree with that. You're
I
right.
would have gotten up at 2 in the morning and I would have gone to the post office.
Right. Come
Yeah.
on, Allie.
Or I would have written him a letter.
Exactly.
Anyways, yes. Yeah, that does fall apart. But yeah, that was, and they have he has a, romantic notion about love and she does not. She hasn't seen it. She doesn't really understand it. And the Notebook was the most romantic thing I could think of for them to butt heads about.
Yes. And just the fact that they are trying to get this like epic love movie made, which we really know nothing about. We don't need to know anything about it in this book, but just that how much they care about it. And yet they're living it on the page as you're writing their own love story. I just thought that was like brilliant.
Thank you.
So please tell me that you are like shopping this around for movie rights because it will be amazing to see on screen for that
It
very
would be
least.
so fun to see that.
It really
Yeah.
would.
Everything's being shopped all the time.
Oh,
Everything's for sale. Yeah, I would love to see that. It would be fun, especially the parts where they're in New York, actually. I think it would be fun to see them in that house.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
I would love it.
At the bonfire, like,
Yeah.
I mean, the first
Maybe there's a kiss.
and comparing it to the Notebook kiss, which I'm like, yeah, it's right up there. That was a good one.
That was a great kiss. That was a great kiss.
So the book isn't necessarily particularly, spicy, but didn't need to be. And I almost felt like this has what I love about like historical romance because like just the fact that he would touch her thigh, I was just like, oh my gosh, Annabelle, like he's touching her thigh and now he's like leaning over. And I think I'm gonna go out of my mind. Like that's all they needed in this book. I was just like, wow, like, you wrote great chemistry. Like, did that take, like, edit after edit? Because it just seems so seamless for them in this story.
Yeah, that is not the easiest part of writing for me. Uh,
Mhm.
there are parts that like just happen when I'm writing. That's not one of them. And in this book, I'm not joking when I say this. So, like, as later drafts come, I get them back from my editor, and she just makes comments in the margin. And the big, love scene, she writes in the margin, "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what's happening here. Are they having sex?" And I was like, "Okay, that's the spiciest sex scene I've ever written. Like, you don't know what they're doing?" Anyways, for some reason, it just doesn't like flow. The chemistry, yes. But like then when we're all there, I don't know. I think people that write really spicy books, it just like flows right out of them. And I'm better at the lead up, like the before the kiss, the touch on the thigh, than I am the actual sex, which is why there's really not that much sex in my books.
Well, and it didn't need it, like I said, like, I was like, "Oh my gosh, these 2 are, like, on fire," and all he's doing is putting her bike in his car, and I'm just like, unreal. So,
More people should make out in cars.
they should, yes, steam that
They
seat
should.
up, and he just reaches for her face, like, that's all you need, and
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank
but at
you.
the same time, I'm making it sound like it's so simple. Like, I think that's what's also the beauty of your writing. You make it seem so easy that, oh yeah, just, have her touch her thigh and it's going to be hot. Well, no, it's how you wrote those scenes and the scenes before that lead up to it that you're just like, oh my gosh, like that's just beautiful. So,
Thank you.
yeah, kudos
Thank you.
to that
I
one.
find the hardest part about writing a love story is writing feeling the correct wave of how the feelings are going. Because you
Mhm.
can write a bunch of scenes and one is like, "Ooh, I'm so attracted to him," and the next is, "I wonder what's on TV." Like you can without breaking the chemistry, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. That takes a lot of drafts to do.
Well, and I could imagine, like, just writing that slow burn, which it's an amazing slow burn, but it's a week, but I felt like it was so much longer, like, and I think that was really smart to have their story of when they first met because you're like, "Oh, here's this brewing already underneath," and now it just took them to have this time together in New York. I thought just how you brought them together was a really cute meet cute story, which I won't spoil, but I thought that was brilliant to have in there to tie together their, like, enemies to lovers start to now this, like, beautiful slow burn once they're in New York.
You
Uh,
know, I didn't think about that while I was writing, but now that you say that, if they hadn't already have had some history together, it would have been a real insta love, unbelievable situation.
yeah,
Huh.
but I think because you had that and then how you tied it at the end, it was, like, perfect. So, yeah, I won't spoil what that is. Just have to read it, people, and trust me on it. So, do you have, looking back, having finished it, like, that you have a favorite scene that you wrote or just a moment between Jane and Dan and you're like, "Yeah, that was it for me."
Yeah, so I really like them in the car. You know, I like I love writing a small space.
Okay.
Uh, I love it. I love when I love 2 people in a car. I loved how small that room was that they were in. But I would say I love Jane and Dan in the car.
Yeah, I agree with you there. In
And
all the
rain
what's that?
and the rain.
In the
Like, I
rain.
like the sound of rain in a small space. It just feels
And even just her, like, desire to get the berries, I was like, "Oh, Jane," like, "I can understand you wanna do that for dad," like, all the little seemingly details just make up the big whole, which is
Thank you.
fantastic.
I also really liked writing her mom because her mom isn't in the book very much, but they're 2 people who are super close, who have a lot of stuff they don't say to each other, which I don't think is a very uncommon thing, right? Like in a
Right.
marriage between your friends. I mean, there's a lot of relationships like that. And I liked writing the scene where all the stuff came out. Super cathartic for me for whatever
Yeah.
reason. I
Mhm.
guess I'd like been holding on to her stuff while I was writing the book. And I liked that, writing that.
Yes. And she didn't get, like, defensive, the mom. Um,
No.
she was just there and heard, which was really sweet. And I liked her friend, her girlfriend, like, that she wasn't just alone, even though she sort of seemed like she was this alone character, but her Clem was, like, this really good mirror for her to be like, "Wait a second," like, "This is what I'm seeing and hearing," and you could, like, dump on her for a minute and then keep going because she had them in her corner kinda thing.
It really is a testimony to how much people need friends.
Mhm.
When you think about how much characters need friends in books. Like, it's very hard to write a book about somebody who doesn't have a friend because you don't get like, everybody's internal dialogue is so crazy, you'd get tired. You need somebody to be like, "No, that's not actually how it is."
Yeah.
I've been getting, a lot of messages from people saying they want to see Clem's love story,
Oh, I would love that.
like
I
a spinoff.
Well, because we're kind of invested, right? She had her heart broken
Yes.
and she's working like a dog and she's a great friend. So yeah, she deserves
Yeah.
her own love story.
Yeah. Everybody does.
Everybody does. Well, and you said you were from LA. Do you love just Hollywood romance? I mean, you had the screenwriter and the actor in Nora Goes off script, and now you have, the childhood star, producer, or cinematographer in this one. Or is it just like a
I don't love it in particular.
fun idea?
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. I think I just know a little bit about it, or I have an idea of how these people are, which is probably not even close to how they are. So it's fun. I mean, I also really just like writing about really regular people, like Allie in Summer Romance, or, just like people who are, unloading the dishwasher a lot. So yeah, no, I don't prefer famous people to not famous people for writing.
Well, and it's fun, like, all the little details you give too. Again, going back to, like, seeing yourself in the character, like, her eating the kebabs. I was like, "Yes, I feel you, Jane." Like, I am so paranoid eating a kebab that I'm gonna, like, fling that chicken across the way. And so it's like all these little things. I'm like, "Annabelle, I love you for adding these little nuances to the story."
But seriously, how hard is it to get food off of a kebab?
So hard.
And if
Yeah.
there's a pepper or an onion or something, it's just all gonna like, why are we making food so hard? Just give me the whole steak.
Exactly. Life is hard enough. Please,
It
like,
really is. We do
come on.
not need to chop it up into little pieces and put it on a sharp stick. Yes.
Exactly.
These
Oh.
are these are things I can stand by.
Same, same. Oh my gosh. Well, I just posted my review on Goodreads today, but as
Thank you.
you're saying, some have been coming in. Like anything that have jumped out at you that you're like, oh, I didn't think about, or just that you love hearing so far about It's a Love Story.
I I love hearing how relatable Jane's journey is, and let's not start using the word journey, but her coming to develop her own opinion of herself,
Mm-hmm.
and her letting go of this idea that she needs to be Reese Witherspoon to like have a happy life. Like, there's a lot of different ways to have a happy life, and there's a lot of ways to be a woman and a person in the world. And I just thought I was telling that story, but it's starting to feel like it's a lot of people's story. And people are writing to me and telling me, this is what happened to me. This is the story that I believed about myself my whole life that I now look at totally differently. Because I think that that's the thing we do. I think that you hook onto these stories that you either hear as a child or you tell yourself about yourself as a child, and you become that thing. And it's really important to like stop and look and say, like, who's even telling me that story? Is this story even true?
Right.
Which is the name of the movie that they're trying to make. True Story.
Oh, see, no detail is when unlooked in this story, which I
I
think,
don't know, that might have been an accident. The other fun idea I had would be, wouldn't it be fun to write that book? To write True Story?
yes.
Because
Well,
we don't really even know what that story is.
but I kind of felt like you did in this one, right? Like, or that's how I sort of read it. Like, they want this true story movie to come, but I felt like you wrote it on the page as Jane and Dan's story. That's how
Yeah, no, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
No. But I do need to see it in real life with actors. I'm not sure who I would cast as those two. That's kind of a hard one, but it would be really, really good. Oh, gosh. So you're about to go on tour. Is touring always fun, exciting, nerve-wracking, all the above?
It's all of the above. It's not really nerve-wracking. It's the only negative thing about tour is you wake up every day and go right to the airport. And it's just such a weird way to start your day.
It
Like,
is.
here I am at TSA, but then you get there and it's honestly like it's your birthday party every day for 10 days. And everybody who shows up at book events is happy to be there because if they weren't, they wouldn't have come. Everybody's excited. Everybody's really positive. It's just like, it's amazing. I feel so lucky to go on
so
tour.
great.
It's so fun. And I'm going all over the country this year. So
Oh, I hope it's
fun.
a blast. Oh my gosh. If you have a few more minutes, I'd love to just ask a few more questions, but is there anything that we haven't that you want readers to know about It's a Love Story? Otherwise, tell us where they can find you online.
You know what I want readers to know? That almost nobody's noticed yet. Did you read Same Time Next Summer? About Sam and Wyatt. He plays the guitar. He's a songwriter.
Yep.
That took place on Long Island in the same town that they visit in
Oh,
this book.
I
And
did not put that together.
I don't think anyone has. I think I've gotten one message from somebody saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the same town from
Is
Same
it
Time
the
Next
same
Summer."
owl barn? Now that you
It's the
say that,
Owl Barn that
yes, now
Wyatt
that you
built
say it.
so that he could bring the festival to Oakshore.
Oh my gosh.
And it's Chippy's Diner and it's this, but Dan's family lives on the other side of the tracks. They don't live on the water. So it's like the potato farm side of this very specific town that does not exist, where normal people can afford beachfront property.
Oh my gosh. I can't
Yeah.
believe I didn't put that together. But now that you said that owl barn, I'm like, yes, how did I not put that together? Oh my goodness.
And I don't talk about Sam or Wyatt, or I don't think I even mention, I just named the Owl Barn. But yes, it's the same town. When I realized I was bringing them back to Long Island, I was like, you know what? They could just go here.
Yes.
We already have a music venue.
Didn't even know I already planned it this 2 books ago. That's great.
That's right. It might just be laziness. I'm not sure.
Well, I have to also say, waiting a year for another new book, it's like torture because I love your writing. But the thing that makes it go so much easier is your newsletter. So I'm going to give a total selfless plug here. If you're not on Annabelle's newsletter, please join. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's
Cute.
so much fun to read. So I just think your humor comes out. The things you have to say just like make me smile. So whenever I see it in my inbox, I'm like, I get a little bit of Annabelle today. I'm so happy. So
That is, I mean, of all the really nice things you've said to me today, that is so particularly nice to hear because I have a weird feeling about invading people's inboxes. Like if I post on Instagram, you've deliberately gone to Instagram, you don't have to read it. But I'm like, when I go to write a newsletter, I'm like, is this worth spamming all these people with this nonsense about what happened when I was walking my dog? Like, so yes, okay, that's encouragement
people
because
can unsubscribe if they want, but it's
yeah,
amazing. I love it. And
thank
I
you.
loved the one about your dog. And I think that sequel to Mel Robbins' book is a definite idea that she should take on.
Yeah, I mean,
But
she should pay me for it.
she should, yes.
Good.
And the fact I love the one when you moved and about like trying to find your people and the neighbors who love to borrow things. I'm like, yes, like that's who I want to find too. And it's really
Yeah.
hard when you move to find new people.
It
Ah,
really is. It helps if you have a dog, because people want to stop and talk to your dog.
true. Mm-hmm.
But the only place I'm half a year in Florida right now, so that's where I moved, where I literally don't know anybody except authors. Like I know all the authors who live in St. Petersburg. It's so fun. Like we got together the other day to write. We didn't write, but that's a really nice way to make friends.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing at all. That's
That's pretty
awesome.
good.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, grab onto Annabelle's newsletter. It's fantastic. Plus, then you'll stay in touch to know when her next book is out. Is there any teasers that you can throw about? I know it's another year away, but
So I'm sending in a second draft on Friday, and it is I say this. She is a single mother, and it's fake dating,
old. Okay. Love
which
it.
is, I'll just say, the dumbest trope there is, because in real life there is no such thing as fake dating. It never happened. No one ever says, pretend to be my girlfriend at this wedding. Like, it never happens, but it is catnip for me. I don't know why I love fake dating.
I love that trope too. Enemies to lovers is probably my top, which is why I love this one too. But then fake dating is probably my second. I love it.
I can't, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world, and I cannot get enough of it. But it takes place in a fake town in Rhode Island.
Fun. Okay.
Anyways, I'm having a really fun time writing this book. I don't know if it's any good. I'll find out on Friday. But every time I sit down to write it, I'm like, this is so fun.
Oh, I love it.
So we'll see.
I'm sure it will be great because this one is phenomenal. It's a love story coming out May 27th. Everybody pre-order it. Order it now. It's wonderful. And that wraps up our interview.
I really hope you enjoyed it because I fangirled so hard about this book because it's so deserving. And Annabelle is honestly just the most wonderful person to talk to. I am so grateful for her and so happy we had this time to chat about It's a Love Story, which is out May 27th. Please, please, please go out and pick up a copy. It is so wonderful. And then circle back and tell me what you think of it because it's one of my most favorite books of the year. I hope it turns out to be the same for you. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. Please come back to the next episode. But in the meantime, happy reading because life is better with a love story. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.